Hello homies, Brokenblade picked Kled. Why on earth did he pick Kled? Because Kled, of course, is strong into Sion. Why is Kled strong into Sions? Well, I have to tell you, the changes that hit Kled on 25-14 have been massive. So Brokenblade, of course, in G2, they're Lolalytics gamers. They're in the loop about the things that changed in the game. Let me take you through the patch notes that affected, of course, Kled super much. So first and foremost, the biggest detail is the fact that his remount health is now granted instantly upon beginning to remount, which is massive. He gains bonus armor and bonus magic resistance when he's demounted, equal to 1% of his bonus health, increased by 20%, so he's bulkier. Because bonus health is the main stat that everybody buys on Kled, you know, the Black Cleaver, you know, the Overlord's Blood Mail, the Titanic Hydra, people are just stacking HP, which is super cool. Additional detail in terms of how the W works, basically the cooldown is dropping super fast and rapidly. Basic attacks now reduce its cooldown by 1.5 seconds, reduced to 0.5 against non-champions, which is super big. It also scales with bonus health, but they're really leaning into, of course, the bruiser fantasy rather than the lethality Kled that we got to see in solo queue a couple of times. They've changed some numbers around left and right, but the fact that he is now super strong in very prolonged fights, of course, helps him a lot against the tanks. A champion like Sion, you need to have the damage output to be able to kill him. And the fact that, you know, an additional detail that I missed is that courage now from minion kills increased to 5 from 4, makes the number really round and nice. You're not stuck on awkward numbers anymore. A bunch of bug fixes that also, of course, help in terms of interactions with champions, like the bailout. There's a nerf to the wild growth because he got way more health because of how Skull works. There's some changes here and there, but I think I covered the big ones. He wants to stay in the fight long, he wants to survive, it's easy for him to survive, and he just wants to be bulky and buy a shit ton of HP. Let's take a look now how BB actually played it, because it was a super interesting game. G2 look like they are in fantastic form. I mentioned in my breakdown of the teams, I do think that G2 as a team is a team that benefited so much from the last couple of months in terms of course, being able to go internationally, practice against teams, EWC, MSI and so forth, while of course teams like Casey, teams like Fnatic, they got to stay home, they took long vacations, and of course now the format is already fully active, and G2 actually got time to rest and decompress and actually nourish themselves with that experience that they got in comparison to maybe an AL that had to jump into things right away, and Genji as well that had to jump into things. Let's take a look at what BB does in the lane phase that really stands out. Level 1, he just makes sure to get information. He wants to, of course, check if he can put a ward on the blue and spot with Javan stats. That's, of course, going to provide a little relief for the map, which makes it easier because Tyler doesn't need to drop a ward for his teammates. The next thing that BB does is that he's going to now zone Sion off of the experience. He's going to just hold the line here, and he's looking to trade actively with him with the Doran Shield, because in this case, a Brokenblade is stronger. He managed to squeeze the ult in. I don't know why Oscarinin, walks up a little bit too late. He doesn't get the full XP, as you can see here to my left. Doesn't get the full XP, while Brokenblade did get the full XP. So Brokenblade doesn't need to be super worried about his HP just because of how easy it is for him to just remount and keep going. So after this, he's going to just keep continuing the wave. And the main point about Kled really is to just trade around your W. Your W cooldown is what gates you, and the main thing is that you want to find the windows to trade before you hit the wave. Kled players like to hold pressing W and skilling W until you actively trade, because obviously you can trigger this on minions, which is something that you in some cases don't want to do. But as mentioned before, the cooldown is reduced when you hit champions, which is super cool, and also reduced when you hit minions, so the prolonged activity and the kind of space between things, your action is not as big as it was before. An additional detail is that Q no longer applies grievous wounds. So in the context of playing this champion against Aatrox specifically, maybe this is going to happen less so, but I do think that Kled as a champion has become very strong into tanks specifically. And another additional detail in terms of how the game extends is that Kled is super strong at dealing with champions like Sion and Javan on side, because Javan will never realistically put pressure on the Kled, so he can push deep waves without information. So he gets a trade in, he gets the passive Fox 2, 4th hit as well for the bonus damage. Brokenblade just keeps mounted, he didn't force the demount, he just keeps playing. Slow pushes the wave in. Here's passive triggered on the minions, as I mentioned before. Tries to get the pull, but Oscarinin triggers W and goes forward. And this is something that if you play against Kled, you need to pay attention to when he triggers passive on the minions. And now Brokenblade is looking to crash the third wave. Sputtering forward, seeing if he can squeeze in maybe a little, hit. Brokenblade has full vision, knows that Jarvan pathed at the bot side, so he can manage the wave however he wants. Very cool detail here that Oscarinin drops a ward, and with the passive, he can just clear it with ease. Oscarinin showcasing that he doesn't have super much experience in the matchup, and he loses a ward right off the bat. It can be helpful to do this to trigger Kled's passive if he's in the bush and he's A-clicking. If you're going for an all-in, triggering his passive can be a good thing, so throwing a ward at him to break the passive can be super cool. But Brokenblade goes for the trade, and he knows of course Sion can't put him in lethal ranges. And as you can see here, the number is very well rounded, 25. There's no longer awkward numbers like 24, 28, and that is of course super helpful because everything is just around 5, so it's easy to play around. You're no longer stuck on awkward numbers like 98 or which makes a big difference. It can be the difference between life and death in a lot of cases. But as you can see, Brokenblade remount super easily. Sion can't go all in these type of trades. And maybe if Baus bought AD, maybe he could, but as you can see, Brokenblade is just extremely healthy and has been harassing Oscarinin this entire time. The rest of the lane phase is just similar to this, and Brokenblade is just kind of managing the wave in a beautiful style. In terms of the rest of the game, looking at how BB impacted it and how things were played out, from Fnatic's side, a very crucial detail happened in this moment. So in this moment, you have Lucian and Braum just killing Alistar on the bot wave. And a mistake that Fnatic do is the fact that Oscarinin doesn't base with unison with the bot lane. Very important in a lane swap heavy game, if you want to play for these objectives and let your jungle play for these camps, you want your Lucian, Braum, Jarvan to base after doing their business here bot. Maybe grab another plate, get a recall in. But it's very important that Oscarinin syncs the base with his teammates. Because take a look at what happens here as Fnatic want to open topside and play with Jarvan on topside and be strong side. They are now being forced, just because Sion stayed on this wave and pushed and didn't sync the base, to actually open bottom side. Which puts G2 in a position where they are now playing away from the bot lane that is so difficult for them. Brokenblade, on this champion with Kled, is very happy. It's very tough to dive Kled. And it takes Lucian, Kai'Sa and Braum away from the matchup when they are so much weaker. Fnatic had the initiative on the base with the kill, and still they ended up in the wrong matchups. Upset is now bot lane, and here you can see a situation where Skewmon is the one securing the grubs. Bye Oscarinin. Let's jump a little bit forward. In the end, we're going to have a situation where the matchups are correct. Lucian and, of course, here, this is a different moment where Brokenblade decides not to base. Because in a world here where Kled matches the base with his bot lane could open bot onto the Sion lane and then play. But the issue is that they're going to be one way behind, and it's going to be, a little bit more imbalanced if Sion decides to push this wave. And then, of course, Kai'Sa and Alistar to catch, and then Kled re-entering this top side is going to be a little bit trickier. Maybe they could do so with defending with Alistar and then with Pantheon, and then just play Kai'Sa in isolation against Sion if they want to remove the matchups. But I do think just because Kai'Sa finished Kraken Slayer, that they feel rather comfortable actually playing the matchup and completely fine with extending the regular lane phase. I just wanted to highlight the nuance that if Kled stays here, their options are very limited, and Kai'Sa and Alistar needs to open on top wave. Here, there's a crucial mistake here from Fnatic after having a pretty damn good early game in terms of playing in sync with Razor, besides that one base that I mentioned. This is a moment where their invade timer here is pretty solid. They chunked Skewmon, he has no flash. Skewmon is now taking his chickens, and he's trying his best to actually get some value. The issue here is that Upset moves away from the red buff a little bit too late. And I think in this moment, it's very natural to think that the enemy is not going to contest. They have a ward here, they put the flag down here, Skewmon was low. He's just trying to save time. The main issue is that he's spotted on a ward. This is the moment where G2, instead of finishing the recalls, instead of continuing accepting that his red is gone, because Kai'Sa needs to base because she's chunked, and Jarvan's going to cut them off because Pantheon can't play. Here in this moment, they stick around because they see Lucian crossing this ward. I would say that Upset needed to stick around a little bit longer, and Razor needed to pull out the red, because look at the moment, they know that Lucian was on that vision. They engage, and a big comeback play from G2 commences. Massive, I would say, massive. Kaiser's now on the board, she got a kill. Skimond also secures the dragon in this moment. I think that there is argument to be made that Fnatic should look to pursue this and look to play this, but just because of the virtue of just Caps having no flash and there's being no summoners on the other side, we're going to instead have a situation where Razork is playing on the top side. He's looking to play for the Herald. But the main issue here is that Mickey takes a trade that is quite bad. They don't know Pantheon position, and the power of Pantheon, why he's so permabanned, is the fact that, you know, Pantheon and Talia as a pairing even, is that they have so much global pressure. You taking extended trades or all-ins when you don't have information, or Javan on your side when ours shows on a neutral wave, that is going to be very dangerous for you, because either they can show up or they can set up a dive very, very easily. Here's the moment when Mickey X loses a lot of HP because he pushes forward when it's not necessary, and it's very hard for, of course, Upset to fight back because he knows that Pantheon and Talia are lingering in the position. Now Mickey X lost a lot of HP, and this setup that they have where they are doing Herald, when there's a blue trinket, it's spotting this, that of course Caps placed here, they are now in deep trouble on bottom side. Bobby tries to TP in, but TPs are not super fast, and as you can see, the ults beautifully landed from Skimond and G2 with a wonderful setup. In the end, Bobby tries to save the situation, but he just ends up putting himself in more danger. He gets comboed, he gets Q'd. Now Sama is going to collect him in the end with a little isolated Q damage and a basic attack with the Kraken Slave block. So if you want to prevent this from Fnatic's side, the main thing and the problem comes from before. They can't play a game where they mismatch because diving Kled is very difficult, and additionally, racing against 3 grubs is also very difficult. So when they are in situations like these, you have to path in a way where you're going to end up on the side where Lucian and Braum want to open. So when Razork opens on bottom side here, you need to create a circumstance that you, as a jungler, end up pathing to, of course, the side of your bot lane. Because if you can't match and they can't play aggressive and harass, Pantheon can always ult them, and that's of course the power of a global ultimate, is that you have to, there's no way you can ward for Pantheon realistically. You can always show up. So I would say that Razork can either path from the top side into bottom side, or in this moment where Razork decides to go here and they are skipping the Drake, to maybe just commit Lucian and Braum all the way into top side again, and then to push out and then to cross into mid and then to defend. But obviously all of these options are a little bit awkward because in the end they just need to match because of the grubs that we mentioned before. There's a situation now where Fnatic try to force with the help of Herald, and it doesn't really work out for them. They of course trade these dives bot lane, and they have the Herald in the aftermath of this situation. Here, I think that the situation is a little bit too forced for my taste. I think that Sion could even walk top to catch another wave because he has TP, he can walk on the neutral wave. He instead walks out on the wave that is coming now because he wants to pressure on it. Here, Poby decides to push one more and notices nobody's here. And with this information, they could have just played a little bit slower. I could see easily a world where nobody catches this wave and they just respect the fact that there's 4 on mid wave. There's no reason to pull the trigger. If nobody's catching the bot wave that will be pushed, there's no reason to, of course, overforce this, because this means the enemy can be potentially 4 on side. Nobody shows here, it means that they are 3v4, and Poby already has gained value. If somebody shows on bot, and then Poby's on the next mid wave that is coming out now, and they ult, and they send Herald, then it's a lot better. You could also argue that Sion should be up here, defending the tower, and just trading 1-for-1 in terms of people, against, of course, the Kled. But this is not the worst. This is not the worst, you know. I just think that they can wait a little bit longer and let this actually, you know, take its toll. Take a step in the river, put deep vision, and play a little bit of more time. And I do think that Sion could have been more into top side. But as you can see here, Razork as well, very trigger happy. EQ doesn't land on Caps, and Caps is very cleverly just holding flash. And Razork wants to burn his flash so badly. Especially now with the ult Q, but the Archangel keeps him alive, and Lavrov with the CC on the front line. Javan easily killed here by the Kaiser and the Kled TP on the flank. This was of course way too forced by Fnatic, but they just felt very frustrated because losing the top wave here and them wanting to of course burn Caps' flash after being so overly aggressive. Maybe Razor could have EQ flashed instead of just EQing the way he did onto Caps to burn his flash right away. Take a look at this one. Imagine here he just EQ flashes instead of doing flash EQ. But Caps being so cold, by the way, to not flash here is kind of crazy. Final thing I wanted to showcase was just a crazy situation with Kled. The majority of the game, I think, is just explained by the fact that Kled can push so deep waves and hover to any situation that is being played. It makes Alasar's job to place vision super easy. Caps is very strong on the mid waves too when he crosses through. They just make sure G2 to always have vision on, of course, the side that Caps wants to push on. And through that, Fnatic are always the ones responding. As you can see here, Labrov of the TP puts very deep vision. Kled doesn't need anything, he's just waiting until Caps pushes this. And Caps is then pushing, of course, the next wave above the line of here. So it means that Hobie always needs to catch. They don't have a good way of creating a proactive play on Caps because he has all this vision. And if they try crossing through this vision, they're just going to push into mid and then hard force on mid. So this is very good macro from G2 and very clear that Fnatic have a lot to work on in terms of breaking the enemy. Eventually, it's going to be a big fight that commences, and G2 is going to get even further ahead. Hobie gets isolated, he dashes through rocks, and Labrov just snaps on him. Together with Skimond, everybody flashes on Hobie. Hobie gets a warm welcome to Europe. Finally, as we see, as I mentioned before, Kled, the majority of this game has just been pushing the Sion in, collecting tier 2s, collecting turrets. Now we get to see Brokenblade in action. He now has 3 items, and if you look at his HP bar, that looks absolutely ridiculous. That is almost 6,000 health. In terms of where the scaling is, as we mentioned before, his W scales with bonus health in terms of the bonus percentage damage, which is crazy. His shield that he gets as well. Actually, I don't think his shield scales with HP. It scales with AD. Nevertheless, we continue. Take a look at this fight here from Brokenblade, which is absolutely ridiculous. We're going to click him just so you guys pay attention to his stats. He ults in for the move speed. He starts hitting Oscarinin. Razork is already isolated. Brokenblade believes that he's already going to die. He's in the front line. Obviously, his HP bar is extremely just intimidating. He's going to chase forward. His armor drops a little bit lower because of the Black Cleaver and the E of Sion. He's currently tanking 3 members, and he flashes onto Upset because he lands the Q. And a very cool thing, as I mentioned, look how much armor he gains from being demounted and being around 3 enemies. Having that big HP bar and getting this bonus armor is ridiculous. Keep in mind, there's 3 Black Cleaver stacks on him, so he has even less armor. So now this Kled is so damn funky and tanky, and he just needs to keep hitting to then mount up again. And as you can see here, another benefit of that change, the fact that he instantly gets that HP. He's in the air before even Skull arrived and he's mounting it. You get the HP before the bike even arrives, which makes you so much trickier and harder to kill. So I'm expecting to see maybe more Kled against tanks. This looked lovely. A lot of players are playing Sion. Sion has become a staple in the meta. When Trundle is out and Gwen is out, people blind pick it. I think the Kled answer is very unique and interesting. The ult being very powerful in terms of what you can contribute in terms of move speed and engage power. And I think this side of Brokenblade is one that we like super much. I think in terms of the rest of the game, G2 just stomp. G2, I have to say, they're looking fantastic. Very easy to complain about Brokenblade when he plays those champions and he pisses those off with, of course, bad performances like on the Warwick. But when it hits hard. And if you guys want me to break down the Rek'Sai video, please let me know. I will do that too. We have a Dr. Mundo video too. It seems like Brokenblade is just back in form. That's why, in a world where it's easy to, focus on the most recent games and the recency bias kicks in because we are all paying attention to, of course, what happens most recently. Greatness is something that, players that know how to become good and at a high level again, those are the ones that are great, not the ones that are consistently playing insanely good League of Legends all the time, because that's very rare. It's just a question of how can you bounce back. It seems like Brokenblade has bounced back, and I think the main reason why G2 looked so much better in this series is that Caps and Brokenblade are so much better at pushing the side waves They are constantly putting pressure on the enemy, lane assignments, basing together, being in sync about the game idea. I do think that G2 as a team just look far more complete. Is it doomed for Fnatic? I do think that they have a lot to do. I don't think this was a classic Fnatic versus G2 loss, because I think Fnatic's macro in the mid to late game really got exposed here. I think the main issue for Fnatic right now is that they don't incorporate Oscarinin at all in the game. I think Oscarinin, it seems like he's not vocal enough. I think Oscarinin is not in tune with what his teammates want to do. And I think Oscarinin is not finding any way to actually be effective, even in the games where Fnatic stomp really hard. The main saving grace of them is that their early games look very strong. Surrounding bot lane, playing around bot lane looks good. But is it enough to cause damage and get to the World Championship? Maybe. Koi and Casey also flawed, but G2 is my current frontrunner to win, of course, the LEC Summer Split. Let me know what other videos you want me to cover, what other reviews you want me to do. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.